Undisciplined, rock and roll is celebrating with an exhibition at Beaubourg. Ron Arad is a star designer. His pieces sometimes sell for hundreds of thousands of euros. Besides that, he's brilliant and nice, so it was time to spend time on this designer, his work, and maybe his weird hats.
I was one of the first auction organizers to have the chance to effectively present pieces by Ron Arad which beat the records. The narrow pappardelle armchair, which had been estimated at about 15,000 euros, beat the record by selling for nearly 50,000. One of the highest prices for a Ron Arad.
Whom we shall define in 3 words.
Refined, at the same time punk, generous, precursor, and inventive.
That makes 5, but that's the excessive nature of the man. Today people talk a lot about his unique pieces, but he's also involved in more affordable works.
Ron Arad is someone who's a researcher and a recycler of material. He uses both industrial materials and materials for recycling. This is really someone who provokes, who questions matter.
And who loves curves and bends.
His popularity just took off and it's never stopped. People I work with didn't see how you could sell a bit of scrap metal like that for 15,000 euros. And as it happens, the same piece is now worth about 200,000 euros. Now when you see an Eileen Gray armchair going for 21 million euros at the Yves Saint Laurent sale, we're still well below that level.
That's one point of view, the advantage being that with him the unique pieces often have affordable mass-produced spin-offs.
What's certain is that he came to London more to be in London than to attend the London Architecture School. I have a friend who knew Ron Arad when he used to go to punk parties. He was a real fan of rock. Initially, even he had no idea whether he was moving more towards architecture and design or art per se. And people used to ask him what he did in life, and he answered that he was a good ping-pong player. And design only clicked into place for him when he saw Gaetano Pesci's show at the end of the 70s.
A late calling, so a career that will reassure worried parents.
That was in 1994. Stark was 2003. Today, Ron is someone who is 57, 58 years old. He's very active. He'd like to develop architecture. And the exhibition relates his career, which is the whole output, both in experimental design and industrial design. No Discipline is the subtitle of the exhibition, and I believe that is really, truly a definition of Ron. So it would have been a pity not to use it.
No Discipline. That's quite the punk slogan for this designer from Tel Aviv who arrived in London just before The Clash and the Sex Pistols.
Ron Arad is someone who is totally free, I think, who accepts no constraint other than what he imposes on himself.
At the same time, this means that Ron doesn't want to be boxed into any one field. He is simultaneously an architect, a designer, and a designer of pieces produced in limited runs.
His leitmotif is creation and work.
Do you want to see the exhibition? No problem, just ask.
In 1981-82, he recovered these seats from Rover, and then he placed them on some curved tubes from 30s. And this object is truly a recycled object. It's really a symbol of his work in the 80s, and he adores it. He has pursued this variation on the seat for 20 years, and that's a variation on the club chair. He simply had the great intelligence to put a counterweight in the seat, that the object always has a position. Boom, you're up, which is different from the position when you're sitting. These are much more recent objects, called ovoid. And this double form, this double ellipse, he went on to use it in materials not at all made for furniture. This is Korean. In silicon, he reinforces the object with a metal sheet inside to support the silicon. So the exploit consists in pouring silicon into a wooden mold for a few days, then take it out, and you have these objects. So this is obviously experimental design here. There were only 5 or 6 pieces made. But this way of reusing materials is truly Ron's real work, in my opinion.
After this little digest of the master's work, we have yet to ask the key question. What about his hats?
He not only wears hats, he's a hat collector too. I have a friend who traveled with him not very long ago and who told me that Ron had arrived with a suitcase full of hats. He was constantly changing hats. But why, you ask? In any case, he's nice even without a hat.
Because it makes him the most easily identifiable designer, as clearly as his work.
Hello? Welcome.
Chauvancourt is a small town in the Meuse department and also a Paris restaurant.
This is a place where I opened at the same time as the decoration studio I have opposite, because everyone who came into the studio, where the decoration changed quite regularly, kept asking me for it, saying, "When are you going to sell something to drink or something to eat?"
So where are the ideas to steal?
I did it up as simply as possible with what I had on hand and a minimum budget.
We like this part already. We don't want to ruin ourselves today.
So for the two comfortable tables there, I put 2 stone slabs, this is Uval stone, on top of some old milk vat frames. Uval is a little village next to Chauvancourt where there's a quarry.
Who'd have thought of that?
I put some plexiglass on the wall that was originally on the ceilings in an accounting firm from the 1950s. I adjusted them to the place by putting them on the wall more to have a wall lamp system. To get a much more decorative look on the ceiling, I put some radiators that I converted into lamps. These are originally radiant radiators with elements, so I drill the dish, I clean it up, and I fit a power socket on top. Anyone who does a bit of DIY can copy this without a problem.
Go on, hands-on. You didn't know it, but you're a handyman too. Oh, yes.
This cupboard here is an old display unit from a tobacconist shop in Chauvancourt. I've recycled it in the sense of removing all the shelves, and I've put some of my hams in it.
Recycle, recycle, recycle. That's it.
Personally, I really like the aspect of recycling things, rather than sticking to conventions, and when you know me better, you know I'm not at all conventional.
This is what all these places that finally give objects a useful life have in common.
Hello, welcome to Sherry BB. Here I wanted to make a place where you can dine informally with good, comforting home cooking.
And for the decoration?
For the decor, we really went second-hand. We had fun making it retro, contemporary thingamy.
It's the thingamy bit that interests us today.
We put old radiators we found at an old market stall. Not even an antique dealer, just a guy selling, a scrap merchant who had tons and tons of radiators. We thought it gave it a rather industrial look, quite nice.
Needs a bit of DIY too, but that's over. You did it.
That's Moroccan tiling. We made a patchwork, we chose several kinds of tiles. You wonder if it's original, but no, it's not.
And it makes a very pretty carpet, easy to clean.
We found some old bistro table legs, and we glued plywood from the office on top. A rather modern look with slightly retro legs.
Here again, good ideas are not expensive.
I really like the simple spirit in restaurants, but where you feel a bit like you're at home, but with better cooking than at home.
And now a handbag shop. The refined rare creations of Benoit Jamin and Isabelle Puech
Hello.
are on display in a wholly amateur but ultra-classy decor.
The store we're in was the first Jamin Puech store. We've had it for 13 years. It reflects our world, which is both creative and the place where we live. That's why the decoration plays a very important role. We have an enormous amount of objects that have been recycled, lots of stuff that we make ourselves.
Can we have a demonstration?
For this piece of wooden furniture, it was there when we took over the store. It was just much plainer. We added molding, a corniche on top, and then we refitted with metal doors and the famous leather curtains. For the lights that are now in the store, they come from a manufacturer called Puff Puff, who used to make inflatable mattresses. He upgraded the factory a bit by making slightly more modern things, so he stole the concept of blow-up bowls, and then he sells either the element or the panels.
Recycling again, blown up and overhead. It all has an old patinated look, but actually it's not.
For this door, for example, which has an aluminum base, we simply covered it with a veneer you put on with an iron. So this is a technique anyone can use. And then we found two handles at a flea market to give it an older look.
It's not as if the sun won't shine when clouds up above wash the blues away.
What's important in stores is that people need to have the impression that it's always been there. You don't want it to feel like we just took over a place and we redecorated it. We want these places to exist in their own right, and we just reveal them.
Converting a door, creating a table, acquiring old flooring, making a tiled carpet, a patchwork mirror. Do you want more ideas? No problem.
Bonjour, entrez.
We're now at Keke.
Pretty words we will never speak.
This is really a business story, but between three friends.
We said that it would be nice to treat the wall slightly differently. We had a constraint that was a bit special. In the lease, the owner of the property didn't want us to touch any of the visible stonework. Behind the doors, there are visible stones. Then in the end, we said that it was really nice, so we did both walls.
Stealing ideas is easy in the end. Afterwards, you have to find the raw materials.
We found these doors in second-hand shops. They're in their original state. We brushed them to get rid of the dust, and that's all. We put a bit of light behind to give an indirect lighting effect that we find quite nice. There's not much direct lighting in the restaurant other than the small bulbs. But we wanted to give an aspect. Indirect lighting is a light that is quite soft, and in space like this, with a low ceiling, it works rather well. We hesitated about what to do with the beams and the ceilings. As the ceilings are low, we couldn't do anything pale because we wanted to play with the space and the light. And so we said to ourselves, we're going to go with dark to make the place a bit cozy. We added a touch of gaiety between the beams with this old-fashioned wallpaper.
Careful, this looks good because it's odd, but dated in a rustic dining room.
This is a compilation of some very good ideas from our travels and experiences.
And everyone's good and bad taste.
They went and stole their ideas too. Then they reinvented them a little further away.